second to last video I'll show you here.
You know what? Hell yeah.
So again, celebrating the murder of a father, and celebrating, of course, the murderer, and gleefully and sadistically enjoying the idea that the weapon that was used for the heinous crime was um, constructed to kill pigs. So what's obviously clear to people is that the resentment of the left is psychopathic and it is purely predatory. First to women and their personality, and then to civilization. When beaten by reality and masculinity, women turn to degeneracy instead of accountability in a vain effort to hurt those who they know are responsible for them and the world that they occupy, thus acknowledging their lack of accountability and sealing their resentment for their own shortcomings. I spent a lot of time thinking about how to best approach this format of psychopathology emanating from the feminine personality, which has been pushed into enormous retreat by the thorough rebuke of the left-wing ideology that has happened over the last few months. This, I think, is very interesting and a very deep puzzle to solve. This woman, recently exposed by libs of TikTok, is calling for someone to kill Elon Musk and his innocent child. On her Instagram, which I found and will momentarily show to you all, she celebrates a murderer, the murderer who killed the healthcare CEO. And she does this repeatedly in many other posts, but that's not all. What I want you to understand going through this video is that these people believe themselves to be good, just as those who committed atrocities throughout history believe themselves to be good.
You know what? Hell yeah. Yeah.
So here's the first post of her celebrating a murder. Just so we're clear, like a murder. She uploaded a video of herself on the internet celebrating murder. So I found her Instagram where she, in TikTok format with songs which she tends to repeat, posts over and over again to celebrate murderers and her resentment towards the patriarchy while looking visibly disturbed and insane in every single thumbnail, where she openly celebrated a murder and a murderer, making it clear and a true statement that when the left possesses women, it makes them resent reality and order so much that they support murderers. So the left doesn't protect women. The left exploits women. The left preys on women. The left is not compassionate. It is not caring. It breaks women into supporting their greatest predators. This woman has posted on her Instagram account, and I'll get into why I'm shocked by this after I say this, but to TikTok soundtracks or sound bites, she's posting repeatedly her support of murder, her support of murderers, her sadistic glee in various perverted aspects of the murder, and her hatred for masculinity and anything patriarchy related. I'm surprised to have found this for a couple of reasons. I'm surprised she still has an Instagram account, because normally this is the type of thing that Meta bans immediately. I guess because she's exhibiting psychopathic traits in alignment with left-wing ideology, they may be turning a blind eye, or she may be banned in the near future. I took screenshots of all of her posts just in case that by the time I was recording this video, because I discovered this last night, in case her Instagram account was deleted, because she's obviously getting a lot of attention now from libs of TikTok exposing her. And then the second reason I'm surprised to have found this is because I'm shocked she would put this online voluntarily of herself, looking crazy, saying crazy things in patterns that are very clearly just sort of raging manifests of her psychopathy. Let's start with this one, since in case you guys think, oh, your analysis always connects Marxist resentment with the insanity of the left and the broken female psyche. Is that just a stretch? We'll start with this one. Hey guys, I talked to Karl Marx, and he told me he's a big fan of getting yourself a little treat. Do not save, do not accumulate capital, spend all of your money spoiling yourself. It's what he would have wanted. This is interesting and perverse for so many reasons. The first being, of course, that saving for the future necessitates a coherent plan. Coherence is demonized in postmodern neo-Marxism as oppressive, of course. The lack of impulse control, of course, references all the weak characters of those who believe Marxism, so this is unsurprising. It's also interesting that the people who follow her are also Marxists. So we'll start off this just by understanding that she is a Marxist. I'm going to try to move quickly through these posts so that we don't get bogged down.
You know what? Hell yeah. Yeah.
So here's the first post of her celebrating a murder. Just so we're clear, like a murder. She uploaded a video of herself on the internet celebrating murder. So that's the first video. Now listen to this next one.
Smash.
Susie.
Wait, what was the game? Smash or pass?
So she's here using degenerate female language to express her support of murder. This is a real person who voluntarily uploaded videos of themselves because they believe themselves to be a good person while doing this. Just full on support of murder, as well as celebrating it. Next post. This is a very central aspect to the psychopath being held accountable, because online, Jordan Peterson has talked about this before, but there's not really a corrective mechanism on the internet to holding psychopaths accountable. And as a matter of fact, the aspects of psychopathy are pervaded and facilitated because of anonymity and lack of consequences among people. And there is an interesting deviation between the psychopathy of men and women online, because men still know that in their biologically instantiated existence there are physical consequences that they will run into if they act out this resentment for reality and psychopathic narcissism and sadism, Machiavellianism, and narcissism. Those are all aspects of the dark tetrad resentment matrices of leftists online. But women don't have the same inevitable consequences that are physical as men do. And so I posted about this on X last night, but one thing that I didn't say is I think that this is actually hurting all women on a very deep macro level of analysis, because the world has to counteract and correct for its failures in order for humanity to survive. Humans self-correct and govern behavior. And the way you govern behavior, like you're seeing here from this woman, is by taking all women on some level less seriously, because they're already disconnected from the physical consequences of the world. The civilized world has decided this, that women are off limits for physical consequences for things, unlike men. All men know that if you're in a group of men, there is a boundary at which if you say certain things, the interaction becomes uncivilized and you will encounter physical consequences. Women don't have this, and so the corrective mechanism is, I think, inevitably to take all women less seriously, which only hurts everything, because that will be construed as oppressive and, a positive feedback loop for their resentment. Anyway, this video again is her celebrating a murderer advocating for violence, but as all psychopaths do, laughing at the idea of being held accountable, as she's being reprimanded in her comments apparently on TikTok for, this type of degeneracy. And I'll show you an image of her TikTok in a moment. Another video in the exact same vein. You can tell that she doesn't have a father. There are a lot of things you can tell. One is that she doesn't have a father. And it is sad that an ideology can break women to this extent, because she's living a miserable life. I'm not trying to get people to feel badly for her necessarily. I'm just pointing out how detrimental left-wing ideology is for women. Second to last video I'll show you here.
You know what? Hell yeah.
So again, celebrating the murder of a father, and celebrating, of course, the murderer, and gleefully and sadistically enjoying the idea that the weapon that was used for the heinous crime was constructed to kill pigs. So what's obviously clear to people is that the resentment of the left is psychopathic, and it is purely predatory, first to women and their personality, and then to civilization. This woman meets the definition of a terrorist, and she believes she's a good person, just like ISIS or Hamas does, because their desperation with reality justifies anything for their ideology, which of course hinges on their warfare and resentment for all that embodies the ideology's wrongness. In this case, the archetype of order, greatness, coherence, masculinity, meritocracy, and individualism, like Elon Musk or anti-murdering laws. That's where you see the resentment directed in this case. Clearly broken. I watched this. Okay, so I watched this stand up. So apparently she tries to do comedy, and I say tries deliberately because I'll save you guys watching this. It wasn't funny. I watched this, and she's really, really not funny. It looks like she's getting destroyed, in her own comments now because people are finding her from libs of TikTok. So here you see a lot of things. The first is that obviously she's saying that even though she's a Marxist, she always has to keep enough money in her bank account to buy weed and get an abortion. So you see the same progressive nature of the resentment for coherence, masculinity, and all things that hold them accountable because they're fundamentally at war with reality, because reality is coherent. But you see it in the comments too. People are saying, why did you delete the Elon post? Because inevitably when you're this mentally destroyed and willing to post yourself on the internet saying things as heinous as this, admitting essentially to being a terrorist, you will inevitably get yourself in trouble, like we saw over here. You end up saying something that is, everything you've done is over the line, but this is the mechanism of holding psychopaths accountable so that they don't take over society. This woman is a psychopath, and she's not self-corrective. All psychopaths like her end up doing damage to civilization until they're stopped. In the case of men, it's when aggressive psychopathic men come into contact with aggressive non-psychopathic men, and then they're held accountable in that moment. For women, it's public shame, it's scrutiny, it's people calling her out, which is exactly what I'm doing here, and possibly also consequences in the form of Meta for Instagram taking action against her account. I can't imagine that terrorism is supported by Meta if there's enough scrutiny directed at it. And these posts do meet the threshold of terrorism, as I described earlier. So with the recent historic results and what the American people decided to do, there's been an enormous amount of judgment and accountability exercised on those who claim that reality doesn't exist and everything is socially constructed and they're the arbiters of right and wrong. A lot of judgment has been exercised on those people. And so there have been many psyches that have been utterly destroyed on every level of their substructure as a result of this judgment. They don't know how to function anymore now that individualism, meritocracy, masculinity, and other forms of coherence have been not just reinstantiated, but that the world has been reminded that those mechanisms are superior to the antithesis of everything good. It just so happens that those psyches all happen to be feminine psyches. And I'm not saying that those psyches all belong to women or females, but I'm saying that they're feminine psyches. The reason for this is because proclivity to abide in left-wing authoritarianism has been scientifically measured to positively correlate with a feminine temperament or feminine personality distribution. We are able to scientifically measure personality and have been for the last 40 to 50 years. This is the reason why those who are advocates, members of the left's most heinous, detached, immoral ranks are always effeminate men, normally short, beta, exhibiting antisocial behavior tendencies, or women that are thoroughly destroyed, driven purely by their resentment for order, coherence, masculinity, and anything that judges them. So this fits in, but it's important to understand that psychopaths can look like this. And in fact, the worst psychopaths do look like this, obviously. This woman who's posted videos of herself looking deranged. In every single video, she looks crazy. And then the things that she says are things that terrorists say. We're all able to tell that. I'm able to deliver this to you through the prism of logic and reason. I'm able to explain these things using a language that she doesn't speak. In fact, she's demonized this language as inherently oppressive because, perversely enough, according to her, it judges her as being immoral. A prism of accountability that she deems oppressive. There's the inversion of truth there, the inversion of reality that's part and parcel of the left's resentment for order. They don't believe they should be held accountable because they don't believe in logic, reason, rationality, or any other mechanism of truth. Truth itself is predatory according to postmodern neo-Marxism because it denotes a distinction between categories of existence, and categories are, of course, oppressive, according to them. And so, under those circumstances, I'm explaining to you how a person can post videos of themselves advocating for terrorism, saying insane things, looking crazy, and still believing that they're good people. Under those conditions, under those circumstances, a feminine psyche which has been obliterated by left-wing resentment can do these things. That's how this happened. Again, the left is not compassionate. It is not helpful to women. It's not good. This is what happens to them. And then of course they're told that they're funny because men want to like have sex with them sometimes, and they think they can be like, Amy Schumer or whatever degenerate woman they admire. Meanwhile, men look up to people like Elon Musk, and of course that may be no accident considering she posted this. This is hardly the only example of female degeneracy. We've seen other examples, such as this, which I won't read out loud, and of course it was posted by a woman that looks like this. Leftism preys on the female psyche, or this, where a woman was so addled by the resentment of Marxism for all things coherent and anything that reminds her that truth exists, that she rejected a guy after a date when he played a guitar for her and sang songs to her that were, according to her, only written by white men, and therefore he's some sort of oppressor and this is unacceptable, and so she doesn't go on a date with him. They're keeping themselves from reproducing. So on the one hand, it does solve itself on one dimension because this person isn't going to reproduce, but their damage to society isn't just in teaching their children, it's in the purveying of the psychopathic pathology which is taking place over the internet. And this is the reason why holding them accountable is so crucially important. I'm now going to report every single one of her posts on Instagram for terrorism, not because I'm triggered, not in the same way a leftist would report things out of not understanding what she's saying or resenting order or coherence, but out of the just authoritative judgment of incoherence, chaos, immorality, and degradation to civilization. And I encourage you to do the same. After you've done that, or before, go to abrahambier.locals.com, scroll down and press become a member. For less than the cost of the coffee, you can trigger and anger communists. And it's important you do this because YouTube has demonetized us because they are at war with coherence, accountability, and truth most fundamentally, and only reward things like you're seeing, like I showed you here. Because they are, of course, perverse, given that they're possessed by left-wing resentment. So this is a very important video. I appreciate all of you, and I'll see you tomorrow.